I've had that happen very often to me that people thought that my account was the actual Herpa account. And then I was like, wow, there are other manufacturers in this scale.
Is this a bubble, or is this something that will stay with us for a long time?
Many people are actually not afraid of trying it anymore, as I personally myself am. Because I just started making customs about a year ago.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Bongocast, the community talk. Now, when we look at our collections, we have many ways of going about that. Some of us collect in specific geographical areas, or maybe in a specific time period, or as with our guest today, are a little bit all over the place, but there is of course always a system to the madness. And when you then can't get the model that you really want to have in your collection, there's always the option of having them custom made, and this is another area where he really shines. But before we jump into today's episode, if you have a topic that you're really burning for and you want to share with the community, well, you can become a guest here on the podcast. Or if you just have a topic that you think we should discuss here, you can suggest that by commenting down below or sending me an email. So it is now my absolute pleasure to welcome our guest for this episode of the Bongocast. He has two personas on the internet. Many of you will know him as a Tim Wings 500 collector or TWC Customs. Tim, you are collecting Scale 500 models. Now, you changed your name some years ago because you didn't always have the name Tim Wings 500 collector. What changed and why?
Yes, so first of all, thanks for having me on this podcast format, Bongo. I started my main account, which is now called Tim Wings 500 Collector, about 7 years ago, I believe. It was 2018 already. And the original name was Herpa Wings 500 Collector. That was at a time when Herpa didn't really have an Instagram account themselves. So they were basically non-existing on social media. And I've had that happen very often to me that people thought that my account was the actual Herpa account. And they were continuously asking me questions about models and when will this come out, when will this come out, what's about this one, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I didn't really have the motivation to handle with all of this anymore. And then I decided to change my name into Tim Wings 500 Collector. And since then, it's been growing really well. And yeah, now I'm where I am right now, I guess.
Amazing. So you kind of for a while were the unofficial Herpa Wings account on Instagram. But I know that another thing changed because when you started collecting, you were actually also only collecting Herpa Wings models. Isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct. For a very long time, I've only known about Herpa models. So keep in mind, I'm collecting since roughly 2005, so almost 20 years now. And when did it happen? Like, it was, I think, 2019 as well, that I went to the MGL, the Mönchengladbach model convention, which obviously takes place at Mönchengladbach Airport. Now it's moved to Cologne, but it doesn't matter now. I had many chats with HDI, International Airport. You also know him as Tim as well. We've got so many Tims in the Scale community, honestly. And he kind of introduced me into other manufacturers, starting with Starjets, for example. And then I took a look at their models and especially the pricing of their models. And then I was like, wow, there are other manufacturers in this scale. And then it all kept going and stuff. And now I am like 80% of my new models are from other manufacturers than Herpa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually not quite sure when we exactly met first, but we've known each other now for a couple of years. But I must admit that to this day, I still haven't quite figured out what your collection range is, because maybe I have to explain to our viewers. I mean, I of course have a model airport. Many in the community have a model airport, and therefore have kind of a range within what they are collecting, either for a specific time or specific location. But you don't have a model airport. You just have a collection, and really seem to go all over the place. Do you have a specific time period, airlines or regions, or maybe just liveries that you're going for? What is the scope of your collection?
So first, let me correct you on one thing. I do actually have some kind of model airport diorama,
Oha.
but it's only one part of the LAX paper terminal thing that Herpa did a few years ago. Um, I was going for this because I don't really have the space. As you can maybe see in the background, there are a lot of models just on top of my showcases. So I went for this. I actually took a few pictures, posted them on Instagram. They're still up on my account, but I quickly put that thing in this closet right there and never touched it again. Um, so as well as you can see in the background, my showcase is there. I am a showcase collector, as you can call it. I am not collecting models from a specific region, airline, or whatever. I basically just go in and get what I like, of course. No specific aircraft types, no specific time period. Um, I just go in and buy what I like.
Now, when I look at myself collecting, I have certain areas where I collect, which in a way kind of saves me some money, I guess, because when I choose models, I have a certain range. But given that you have total freedom with your collection, isn't that maybe sometimes a challenge for you then to actually decide on what to get and what not?
Well, sometimes yes and sometimes not. So, well, first thing is I only need one plane in each livery, for example. I don't need multiple Lufthansa livery with different registration or somewhat. I don't need five Eurowings A320neos on my shelves. That's one thing. And second is, well, back in the days, I basically bought literally almost everything that Herpa was releasing. But nowadays, it's mostly determined by, and it's sad to say this, is the model actually without any mistakes? And since this does happen not very often, that the model is actually good, I've said it in a question before, I'm 80% buying other stuff than Herpa. That's part of the reason why. So, yeah, it's that's basically how it is, if that answers your question.
It does, it does, and it actually leads me to the main topic of this podcast, and why I'm so happy to have you here, because as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you kind of have two personas on the internet: Tim Wings 500 collector, and then your other account, which I'm sure quite many know of, is TWC Customs, and we've seen the whole custom model world, especially in the scale 500 world, really blow up. I mean, it has always been there, but maybe not so much in the limelight. And in I would say the last 12 months, especially, it has really taken off. We see, I mean, we have had, or we have, someone like Custom Aviation Model Designer who has been there for a long time. But you have started making custom models. We have MTE Customs, Realm of Customs, and many others that are trying their luck out there. Is this a bubble, or is this something that will stay with us for a long time?
Well, it's this and that. So, there are a lot of custom model makers out there nowadays. I mean, you've said it right. Back in the days, like 3-4 years ago, there was basically just aviation model design. I'm sure there were some people doing customs, but not officially in the public. And nowadays there are a lot more. Various reasons on that. You know it. Herpa is struggling to get licenses and therefore struggling to make very important models for us all. Quality is getting bad. Prices are getting bad. So yeah, there are a lot of people out there doing customs, and many people are actually not afraid of trying it anymore, as I personally myself am. because I just started making customs about a year ago, and I was also thinking, hey, I mean, I've seen the models that Model Designer, for example, is doing, and I always thought, hey, it must be very hard to get these models done. But then I've tried it, and let me tell you this: sometimes it can still be very hard, but overall, I think I'm doing quite well, and I think the custom model bubble is gonna stay with us for a very long time, and it's only going up from now, from where we are right now.
I mean, I've followed you, I guess, more or less since the very early days when you started making your first custom models. And one thing that has impressed me with you in particular is really seeing the improvement in the quality and the techniques. And I know that this is something that you're spending a lot of time on, trying to improve how you make these custom models and learning from specific custom models, applying new techniques so that you can always make them better. I know you have sometime, or you have often actually said about yourself that you, in that sense, are a bit of a perfectionist. So you really want to get the best out of it. Are you driven in a specific way here to really improve on that, or what is your motivation?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliments about the improvements and all that stuff. So yeah, as you said it, I am kind of a perfectionist. I mean, my models are, in somebody's perspective, not 100% perfect, but I always try to get the best result with the possibilities I have. And at the beginning, I've made a lot of mistakes. Many things went wrong. I misplaced decals a lot. I screwed up decals a lot. And I was really afraid of painting, honestly speaking. But over the time, I just thought, hey, you have to try this, you have to try that to improve and get forward with this. And since then, I've tried a lot of things out. For example, on painting, I've tried painting with a brush. I've also tried out airbrush painting, which doesn't really work for me, honestly. I've also painted, and I'm still painting many things with toothpicks, for example, which works quite well on small areas like engines and winglets, for example. Um, and it's a continuous process of getting better and better, using better tape, using better Q-tips, using better paint, and all that stuff.
Now, without revealing your secrets, I mean, everybody has to learn by themselves in some way or shape. But if there's someone out there who's starting out, maybe considering to try out doing a custom model themselves. I mean, I can reveal it's only a few days ago that after many years, I have applied the very first decals on an aircraft model ever. And I had this model for a while, and I was it was really almost a pain inside me to like, oh, I have to add these decals. And I mean, I've made a tutorial video together with HDI, as you know, and I mean, I've seen you do it live. You were sitting in a hotel room with me in Amsterdam and doing it, and still it was like this massive mental hurdle, I guess, to say, okay, I mean, I have to cut out this decal, I have to put it in some hot water and then apply it to the model. How hard can that be? And yet it was something that has kept me awake basically for a long time. But now I did it, and I'm really happy with the result. And it wasn't that difficult, to be honest. But if someone is sitting there and considering, oh, you may I have an albino model and I would like to apply some decals or something. Is there anything that maybe from that you can take from your learning when you started off to overcome this mental barrier and say, well, let's do it?
Well, I would say just get a. I mean, you're starting to making customs, right? You are not planning to your first custom to be, I don't know what, the Korean 747, New Live, whatever. Just getting started, and I would suggest, well, don't be afraid of it. You will, of course, do mistakes. They will continue to happen all over the place, and just maybe get any model. Doesn't have to be new generation, whatever. It can be a 25-year-old old generation Frankfurt Airport 747, for example, and then just get some decals. There are a few people out there who do custom decals. There are also a few websites who actually just sell custom decals. You can get them on eBay for a very decent price. and then just start trying. Um, I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, that was basically the way I did it. I mean, HDI introduced me into customs, and he continued to press on me and say, "Hey, just try it, try it, try it." And then I tried it. You tried it a few days ago as well, and you've seen it. It's not as hard as you may think it is, for looking from the outside.
Very good. So perhaps get yourself a good friend who can always keep on motivating you, and then just take the step and accept that the first tries might not be good, but that's the only way to learn.
Yeah, and especially since you've already made two tutorial videos about making customs, those are also worth viewing if you are trying to start making custom models.
Yeah, I have, of course. I have to mention, of course, just to not look like a total fraud. I have made two tutorial videos about how to make custom models without having made custom models myself and without knowing how to do so. But of course, I was very luckily assisted by HDI, who had done customs before and could show the techniques. So if you haven't watched the tutorials, that's why there are tutorial videos about this on my channel. And if you want to start out, I can recommend you to check them out, because I think they show you pretty well the basic techniques you need to get started. Now, in terms of the whole custom model world, one thing I've noticed is it has definitely taken off way more in scale 500 than 400. Obviously, I think because scale 400, the world is just more saturated with many more manufacturers delivering models, so it makes sense that there's less of a need for custom models than there is in scale 500. But one thing that I think indicated for me that this is really taking off in scale 500, and much more than I realized, was when I believe it was in an Instagram live stream, the Hyperwings product manager himself, and he has actually repeated it since then, basically recommended to collectors that they should check out custom model makers for models that Herpa is not making. My jaw dropped when he said that. I could not believe he would do that. What was your reaction?
Well, I was just laughing at this because, yes, he said that that there are many or a few very good custom model makers out there. He saw the customs himself at the AACF this year, and he basically said not one like he basically said, "Yep, go ahead if you want this, whatever, get customs." But on the other hand, he's still refusing to give us all blank or just almost completely white models to do customs on there. Just get I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you know the Shannon A320. This thing has been used for, I mean, the complete batch, except for maybe one or two people who may also like the brand of models, for example. But all of them have ended up as donor models for customs, pretty much. And I don't really know why he suggests going onto custom models when he doesn't supply any donors to us. But it also tells me that there definitely is kind of a lack of confidence in, for example, getting licenses. I mean, yes, of course, on some airlines or brands, it's pretty much impossible to get them. But still, there are so many models out there that have been continuously and repeatedly requested by collectors. And I just laughed at it for a very long time, honestly speaking. I was also shocked by this, that the company was always insisting on, we can't do this, we don't support this, that the model hasn't had a license, and it's a bootleg model, blah blah blah, we won't get into this. And then he basically tells us to make kind of bootleg models.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting shift because the explanation from the product manager has kind of shifted, which is really interesting because a few years ago when he was asked about could you make albino models, so all white models, and the answer from Herpa was then no, we cannot do that. It's a licensing thing. We are only allowed to make Airbus and Boeing models if we have them with an airline license, which I never really understood. That didn't make much sense for me. Now it has changed to actually the last time he was asked to make albino models, he said, I mean, okay, maybe there's something we can look into. So the whole licensing thing, he didn't mention at all, so that kind of fell away. So perhaps something they can do in the future or will do in the future, because I think even they have realized that certain models have only sold out because they have basically been utilized for, as you mentioned, for example, the Shannon A320, but also, I mean, the sales numbers of I'm pretty sure of Lufthansa or Air France models, especially JSR models, for example, are totally skewed because I don't think they are selling nearly as well as people might think because of people wanting those specific airlines, but because they're just really easy to be converted into to other airliners as custom models. Now, when we look at the models that we are getting right now, when I make my reviews, I can look at, are they falling apart? I can look at, have they made mistakes in the print? Do we have print lines or something like that? But I can't really look underneath the surface. But that's actually something you are doing when you're making models, because you are removing paint in order to customize the model. So something I really would like to ask you is, what is your impression about the print that they have added onto the model? When we look at older models to what we're getting today, do we see a decrease in the print quality there?
Okay, so we are kind of getting back to where we were like 20 years ago. So take the first take the first new generation models, for example, 2001, 2, 3 and all that stuff. They had a very, very good print quality. For me, I don't use them because the mold is getting pretty old, but if I have to use them, for example, on Dash 8s, because they haven't really made a new one, or other examples of this, it's very hard to get the print removed, and on some planes it's kind of impossible on certain spots because you will because underneath the print the model is basically pristine, and then other areas of the model where there was no print have aged over time, and then you have this kind of separation of these two things. Then Herpa started to make worse prints. Shannon, very good example. Q-tip, nail polish remover, one wipe, and the print is gone. And nowadays, especially since I've used a Maersk 767 a few days ago as a donor model, the print itself is getting better and is getting harder to remove. But this is also, at least from what I've experienced with these models, the reason for the print line. Because, as you know, the Maersk does have a very visible print line. Looks really shitty, by the way. The print line itself is very easy to remove. As I said, just like with the Shannon, one wipe and it's gone. But then underneath that, the actual print that goes around the fuselage, this is almost, or basically the same quality of a print as it was 20 years ago. And it is very, very, very hard to remove. And this can sometimes be a problem because if you then use more extreme remover for this kind of prints, it can actually remove the basic white paint underneath that. But yeah, the base print under the print line, from what I've experienced, they can't get it straight. So this is the reason why they put the print line on top of it, because then they have a straight line on the fuselage. But again, if you use two different types of print qualities, it looks as bad as we know.
So basically what we have is we have a base coloring, but that is not as accurate, especially in lines. And so therefore they add another print layer on top to get an accurate line. But that is then of a lesser quality or easier to be removed. I mean, it's not really something that matters for collectors when they don't want to remove it. But I guess this is then where we see the issue if they then don't add enough extra layers on top or on of the base paint. That's when we then see the print lines, because it doesn't really fully cover the difference between these two layers.
Well, yeah, basically yes. Just take the recently released KLM A321neo, for example. Everybody that bought this plane, just take your finger or a fingernail and go over the fuselage. You will physically feel the print line on the model. And, well, man, I'm getting frustrated when I think about this. I don't know why they are doing it. I don't know why they are changing it up, because 4 or 5 years ago, before COVID, they had less details on their models, but the print itself was very good. Yes, it was easy to remove, but basically no print lines, generally no issues with the print, like washed away colors or interruptions in lines, whatever, because they put the model in the box too early. The print hasn't dried properly. So yeah, it is them just placing a print line of a very bad quality on top of a very badly placed print, honestly.
Great. I mean, well, not so great, but it's good to hear from someone like you who makes these custom models, because as I said, when we look at the models, we can only see the surface. We can't really dig underneath, and that's something where you really see the differences over time, how the techniques have changed, and what impact that has on the actual model. Tim, I would like to thank you for taking the time and introducing us into the world of custom models. It's really super interesting, and I really look forward to continue to watch you and the custom community in general to see what you guys are coming up with, because you're getting really creative in making all these models and liveries that we just don't get as models from a factory manufacturer like Kappa Wings or anybody else at the moment, at least. So best of luck with that. I look forward to reviewing many more of your models. I have a few still on order, and I look forward to getting those in my hands and see them for myself. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time, and perhaps see you in another podcast sometime in the future.
Yeah, I would be very happy to be in another podcast. No problem. Thanks for having me.
So with that, one more time, thank you so much, Tim, or Tim Wings 500 Collector, or TWC Custom, one name, many talents, I would say. Super interesting, I think, diving into the world of collecting models and, of course, custom models, and how this has really developed over the last few years. But if there's a topic that you really are burning for and you want to share with the community, you can become a guest here on the podcast, or if you just have a topic that you think we should discuss here in the podcast, then suggest it in the comment section down below or send me an email. But with that, we have reached the end of this podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch or listen, or both. And if you enjoy this type of content, then feel free to leave a like, or if you are new around here, you're always welcome to hit subscribe. So with that, see you in another video, hopefully very soon here on the channel. I'm checking out, and bye.